Why didn't you just kill me?
Your punishment must be more severe.
There's one word that I think describes this film, and that word is brutal. Emotionally, physically, just like with what goes on in the film. Parts where they run into a building and they just shoot up the place, and I'm just looking at this like, wow. Like, I mean, that happens in The Dark Knight, but to a much lesser extent. I mean, the way that everything is portrayed in this movie just kind of puts you in a moment of shock while it happens, and gives you a moment of disbelief when you're seeing what's going on screen, because you're just like, holy crap, they're doing that in a Batman film.
That's not necessarily a good thing in and of itself, though, that it's more realistic. It's if it's done appropriately, which it is. For me, Batman Begins is still my favorite Batman of the three, and I think it's because Batman Begins is a little bit more comic book. You really don't get any sense of comic bookness other than maybe his gadgets that Batman has in this movie.
It's a more real Batman. I think that's really why this film got to me more emotionally, at least. Like, the first one I loved, the second one I loved too, and you know, there were scenes where it's like, oh crap, but this movie threw my emotional like spectrum all over the place. Like, I didn't know what to think half the time. I was either crying, laughing, cheering.
For me, this was the most emotionally powerful movie of the three. You don't have that Batman attacking people in the dark, hiding in the darkness very much.
Right.
But the emotional power of the movie overcomes that. I was close to crying on multiple occasions.
And like the first probably 15 minutes, they introduce a lot of new characters to you, and that kind of floods you all at once. Catwoman for me was something that could very well made or break this movie. Coming into this, Anne Hathaway for me has never really been an actor that stands out. It's not like, oh, Anne Hathaway's in this movie, I must go see it. In fact, like, her knowing that she was in this movie, I was a little apprehensive about it. Like, oh, how is she gonna pull off this role?
Oh, the outfits she wears.
But for me, and how she pulled it off completely like renewed my interest in that actress. Like, how well she played Catwoman and how well Christopher Nolan portrayed that was beautiful.
Catwoman, in one word, is a badass.
Bane, I think I'm going to find myself quoting more than even the Joker, just because his voice, he has kind of a weird accent and it's muffled. That was actually my favorite part of The Dark Knight Rises, was Bane and his presence. He's probably one of the most intimidating characters I've seen in a movie. Just when he walks onto the scene, I was actually afraid, and I'm in my seat just thinking, get the hell out of there, Batman, get the hell out of there, Catwoman, because he's so physically intimidating, and he's not really huge. Like, I was actually watching Batman and Robin, not the full movie, just clips.
Okay, I was gonna
I watched a clip with Bane in it because I wanted to see what Bane was like in that movie, and it's just so terrible.
It's awful. Those movies are awful.
And Bane in Dark Knight Rises is smaller than the Bane in that, but
he's
more intimidating.
But it is
so intimidating
it's
in
like
Dark Knight
the
Rises.
first time where Batman walks into a room and you really feel like he's outmatched physically. Like, there's not much that Batman's going to be able to do to harm this guy.
I think a big problem for the first quarter of the movie for me was I did not identify at all with Bruce Wayne sulking for 8 years.
Yes,
I think that is a big problem for the first part of the movie, because look, what happened with Rachel dying, that's not a good thing. But people die, and he's been fighting crime now for a while, and it's been 8 years.
Right.
For me, I think that's actually the biggest problem, and I just came to the realization of my own thoughts. Like, he's yelling at Alfred saying she was my life. For everyone who saw the movies, like, she wasn't that big of a deal.
Right.
And to be fair, up to the point, he had thought that Rachel had chosen him.
You know that my favorite character in the past two movies, Commissioner Gordon.
Yes.
I worship at his feet. I love him. And he is like Batman for me in this movie. He is not the Commissioner Gordon that I know through most of this movie. And that was a part that I felt lost with. Like, I don't think it's really spoiling it to say he's in the hospital at some point, because in the first trailer he was in the hospital. And so for a good part, he is in that hospital and he's talking, but he's not like on the streets being Commissioner Gordon.
People might be able to argue that the Alfred in the first two movies is kind of, he's just there as the mentor and protector of Bruce Wayne.
Oh, the Alfred in this movie, though, was my favorite character.
Oh my god, it's so good. You completely don't expect it. What he does and the emotions that come out of it, it wrenches your heart out.
He's
Yes.
kind of that window for us.
Yeah.
to become emotionally invested in what's going on.
Step up to the plate, Zach.
This is gonna be a 9 out of 10 for me. The more and more I thought about it, I missed Batman, I missed Commissioner Gordon, I missed the fantastical elements to the Batman universe, like Batman Begins, Scarecrow, and then Dark Knight, Joker. Even though I love Bane, this didn't feel enough like a comic book movie for me, and that's fine. It's still an amazing movie, but I missed those elements enough for me not to be like 10 out of 10. Brilliant.
It had my emotions going all over the place. Not a lot of movies can do that for me. And the fact that someone did it so much has to be rewarded in that way. I liked pretty much like all the IMAX shots, but that being said, I have to give it a 9.
The beginning has a lot to do with it for you,
Yes,
doesn't it?
it is probably going to be the movie of the year. That is being said for someone who is a die-hard Lord of the Rings fan, loves it to death, and I know The Hobbit is coming out this year.
So I think it says something that you both were debating in your heads, whether it's a 9 or 10.
Raymond was thinking a 5 or a 6.
Yeah, I gotta give this movie a 9. The first quarter of the movie just didn't sit as well with me as the rest of the movie. It never has that moment like in The Dark Knight where you're kind of bored with the movie, but just how amazing the rest of this movie and the moments that shocked me and just the emotions that I felt at the end put this above anything but a 9. I did not think that Christopher Nolan could do it. I didn't think that after Heath Ledger's performance in The Dark Knight that he could make a better movie than that, and that's exactly what happened. He exceeded my expectations by making possibly the most perfect Batman movie.
What are you?
I'm Gotham's reckoning.